From Citizen TV, this is the Monday Report with Trevor Ombija.
That's absolutely right. Thank you so much for staying with the Monday Report. Now, later on, we'll have a conversation on the IEBC that we want. The vetting of the candidates is ongoing. It was supposed to end on the 25th of April, but there's a 2-week extension after that. But there's been a lot of concern in terms of some of the candidates there were perceived to be biased. We'll speak about that in just a bit. The IEBC we want is a conversation we're having. Willis Otieno will be here, advocate of the High Court. He's seen a lot of petitions. We'll find out, is there a way that the elections can be credible enough that they don't end up in the courts? Usually it's the courts that decide. Bina Maseno will be here. She's a women's rights advocate. Nerima Waka has sent in an apology. She won't make it tonight. Franklin Mukwanja, though, will be here as Executive Director, CMD, that is the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, and Senior Counsel Charles Kanjama, advocate of the High Court as well. We'd like to hear from you mostly at Trevor Ombija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. But first, our top stories tonight.
We know that there are few remaining leaders who are still entertaining gangs. We will arrest you first before we can arrest them.
Political goons epidemic. Interior CS Murkomen says politicians sponsoring violent gangs to face the law. Freed after 2 months in captivity. 5 chiefs kidnapped in Mandera by suspected Al-Shabaab gunmen in February released.
Kuna mwenye alichenga hiyo nyumba akakuja akamwambia mdosi usiweke hiyo mzigo huko juu. Huko juu kuna mahali inatingika. 6 hours trapped. Jared Nyakundi recounts moments before Kisii building collapsed.
There have been also the delays in investigation, which it was relaunched in 2021. Since then, up to date, nothing has been, we have not seen any report from the investigation.
Hope at last? DPP forms senior team to review DCI file on 2012 murder of Agnes Wanjiru linked to British soldiers in Nanyuki. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Yulan Zale. So Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has put on notice politicians sponsoring goons to disrupt meetings and church services. Murkomen said that the government has credible information that politicians are funding goons ahead of 2027 general election and warned that they will name and shame those behind the gangs and deal with them appropriately. Speaking in Mombasa County, where he commenced his week-long tour of the 6 counties at the coast, the CS declared war against armed organized criminal groups in the country, accusing them of terrorizing the residents there. Seth Olale with more details from Mombasa.
You are responsible for sponsoring goons, and we are coming for you. Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen's warning to politicians. In declaring that enough is enough, Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen announced a major crackdown on sponsors and facilitators of gangs and goons in the country.
We know that there are few remaining leaders who are still entertaining gangs. Both those who are in office, but most, nimesikia sasa ni most of the aspirants wenye wanatafuta kiti. I want to tell you this. We will not stop at anything. We will do everything humanly possible to ensure that all of you who are supporting gangs and financing, bailing out, and assisting them to continue this crime, we will arrest you first before we can arrest them.
The government announcing that it will soon reveal the identities of the said politicians.
Regional Police Commandant na County Regional Commissioner arrest these people. I will not provide any cover for any leader, even my best friends, if they are supporting gangs and they are supporting insecurity in this region.
The state distancing itself from any affiliation with organized criminal groupings such as the outlawed Mungiki sect, as claimed by the opposition.
Tunapigana na wale magenge ambao these magangs wenye wako katika nchi yetu, aswa kwa sehemu hii ya pwani. mambo ya MRC na mambo ya Panga Boys. Nimefurahi kwa sababu wabunge wengi wanasema hapa kwamba ukienda Kisauni, ukienda huko Likoni, mabadiliko yamekuwa mengi sana.
CS Murkomen denied the government involvement in Rigathi Gachagwa's church scuffle on Sunday, as claimed by the former deputy president.
Is to make sure that there is no place in the Republic of Kenya where we will allow any goons or gangs to invade any facility, whether it's a church, whether it is a school, whether it is a street. This country must be led by the rule of law. And injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere.
Residents of Mombasa and Kwale counties who have fallen victim to the brutal attacks by the dreaded Panga Boys gang narrating their ordeal during a Jukwaa la Usalama Baraza, bringing together locals, administrators and security officers held at the Kenya Maritime Towers Amphitheatre.
Bwana Komanda, usifanye kazi peke yako. Ukiona penye kazi imelegea, kuna askari anatumiwa ripoti na assistant chief ama chief ama community na wafanyi vile inahitajika, wewe ripoti kwa IG, huyo askari aondolewe kwa kazi. Askari mwenye anaweza kazi akuje hapo ahakikishe kwamba hiyo kazi imefanyika.
The interior CS, who will be camping in Coast Region for the entire week to tackle the gang menace, will also address persistent threats of Al-Shabaab in Lamu County, as well as drug abuse, among other issues. At a time when there has been public outcry regarding the resurgence of criminal gangs by residents in various parts of the country, Cabinet Secretary for Interior Kipchumba Murkomen says the government is pulling the trigger aimed at perceived threats. Seth Olale, Citizen TV, Mombasa County.
Githunguri Member of Parliament Gathoni Wamuchomba has raised alarm over her safety, claiming that her life is in danger after the government withdrew her security detail. The outspoken lawmaker, who is also an ally of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, has accused President William Ruto's administration of using fear and intimidation tactics to silence those opposed to its agenda. Melita Oletenges has the details.
Wamuchomba, accompanied by her supporters and lawyers, visited the DCI offices in Kiambu County to file a report on the withdrawal of her security. She alleged the move was politically motivated and occurred during President Ruto's visit to Kiambu.
Vile tu walinyang'anya Gachagua bodyguard, that is the same way walininyang'anya bodyguard. Ndio wanidhulumu alafu anze kusema tunapigana kisiasa. My life is in danger. The life of my people who work with me is in danger.
Wamuchomba also condemned the recent attack on Gachagua and his allies at a church service in Kasarani, claiming the government is fueling unrest by staying silent on the series of attacks at political events.
You must prove to us that you are really the Christian that you have always told us you are. Wakati watu walirushiwa tear gas Nyandarua, hukuongea. Wakati tear gas iliwekwa kwa kanisa kule Nyahururu, hukuongea. Wakati mawe imerushwa kanisa ya ACK Nyeri, hukuongea. Jana mawe ilirushwa kanisa ya PCA Mweki, hukuongea. Na wewe ni Mkristiano. We need you to rise up and condemn that incident and those common incidences. Otherwise, this country is going to the drain.
But the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, says it has launched investigation into the attack on a church in Kasarani. Regarding President Ruto's visit to her Githunguri constituency, Wamuchomba accused the administration of using state resources and public servants to wage a political war against leaders opposed to its agenda.
Kaba Waredia alipatiwa kazi ya board member wa NGCDF headquarter Nairobi. He is a public officer. Na kama public officer, he is not supposed to be involved in politics.
Wamuchomba's remarks align with those of President Ruto's advisor, Moses Kuria, who also condemned the church violence. However, political pundits are now questioning whether Kuria has shifted his political stand by openly criticizing the government. Melita Oletenges, Citizen TV.
Now, 5 chiefs who were abducted by alleged Al-Shabaab terrorist group in early February in Mandera County and taken to Somalia have been released after 2 months of negotiations. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen confirmed that the 5 were freed and handed over to the Kenyan authorities. Willie Lusige has that report.
It has been a journey of over 2 months of negotiations between elders, Kenyan officials and the Al-Shabaab group from Somalia. The 5 chiefs were ambushed on the road between Bamba Olam and Iresuki as they were heading to El-Wak from Ouagadougou to prepare for President Ruto's visit in the north. Interior Cabinet Secretary Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen confirmed that the efforts had been fruitful and the 5 were released after negotiations involving elders from both Kenya and Somalia, as well as the Mandera County government and the Al-Shabaab group.
Chiefs that were abducted in Mandera have been released, and they are now in the hands of Kenyan officials, and they will be arriving home anytime soon.
Murkomen also said that the 5 chiefs were already in the hands of Kenyan government and were on their way back to the country.
As a government, we decided to work together with the community and to work with the county government of Mandera and the local community, and this process has borne fruit. We will be commenting further in the near future, once our chiefs are within the country, and we'll give you even more updates on the progress and what we are doing.
The government reiterated its commitment to the fight against terrorism with ongoing operations in the background. The government also promised to provide further information once the chiefs return to Kenya. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV.
Now, social media and the rapid deployment of artificial intelligence is emerging as a key area of concern for intelligence services around the world. A conference of intelligence services held in Naivasha last Friday saw intelligence chiefs sharing concerns ranging from information to misinformation and on the rise of online activism. The Director of National Intelligence Service, Noordin Haji, hosted the conference that also saw the participation of his 3 predecessors. Ayub Abdikadir has the details.
Smarting from the June 2024 Gen Z Thunderbolt inspired by the use of social media and technology. Kenya's spy chief Noordin Haji hosted intelligence chiefs from around the continent in a conference that placed technology at the center of intelligence concerns.
For decades, we've been conscious of the threat of rapid technological advancements, recent developments on various technological fronts, including the social media and the emergence of digital activism, have escalated the threat to new levels.
Cybersecurity too remains a security and intelligence flashpoint, with spy chiefs urging closer cooperation between their respective services.
Financing extremist activities and riots using digital instruments such as cryptocurrency and payment system, cyber attacks on infrastructure of enterprises, life support and energy facilities, government and law enforcement bodies.
But it is the increasing rise of misinformation, online activism and the use of artificial intelligence that appear to draw the collective concern of the intelligence services.
The proliferation of information and disinformation campaigns, exacerbated by the use of AI-generated content, has waged a war against truth, with governments being the biggest targets.
That certain technologies are controlled by certain powers and countries and companies, and how we make it a really fair and just leveling field for everyone to compete in an equitable manner remains a major challenge.
The Mashariki Cooperation Conference also saw the public coming together of Kenya's 3 previous intelligence chiefs, Brigadier Wilson Boynet, Major General Michael Geshangi, Major General Philip Kameru, and his successor Noordin Haji. The conference comes a fortnight after another rare outing by the intelligence agency, which convened a public gathering at the National Intelligence and Research University, where the agency for the first time submitted itself to some public scrutiny. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV.
Now, a survivor of the Kisii building collapse has shared chilling details of how he clung on to life, breathing through a tiny gap in the rubble for 6 agonizing hours. Jared Nyakundi, who's 35 years old, was working on the 2nd floor of the ill-fated structure when it came crashing down, killing 5 people. And as Loro Tino now reports, the National Construction Authority, that's NCA, now says that the building had already been flagged for demolition of a non-compliance.
6th April will forever be etched in the memory of 35-year-old Jared Nyakundi. In this gripping amateur footage, the 35-year-old is pulled from the wreckage. Barely conscious, an oxygen tank is strapped to his side as rescuers race against time to save him. For 6 harrowing hours, Jared lay buried beneath a mountain of concrete and steel. That Sunday morning had begun like any other. Jared reported to work, ready to take on the day. But just after 11 a.m., as he stacked bags of cement, the unthinkable happened. For Jared, the sky quite literally came crashing down.
Na hii yenye tulikuwa tunapanga hiyo mzigo ilipasuka, matofali kaenda chini, kapaki kidogo hivi. Hapa mahali ilibaki ingine, sasa ile yenye kutoka juu ikapata nafasi hapa, sasa huko mahali ilikuwa ikainuka juu kidogo hivi.
Jared vividly recalls seeing some of his colleagues trapped on the 3rd floor as the building came crashing down. For nearly 6 agonizing hours, he fought to stay alive, breathing through a narrow crevice, summoning every ounce of strength he had. In the midst of chaos and pain, he managed to not only call for help, but also nudge his colleague to stay awake.
Na mimi nikaanza kumuita Nem. Lakini simu yake inaita na yangu inaendelea kupiwa, lakini siwezi nikaingiza mkono kwa mfuko.
Moments before disaster struck, Nyakundi recalls overhearing a fellow mason warning the building's owner against overloading the 3rd floor. It was a caution that tragically went unheeded.
Kuna mwenye alichenga hiyo nyumba akakuja akamwambia mdosi, huko juu kuna mahali inatingika. Mzee akasema wacha tu waweke gari mbili huko juu kidogo hivi, hiyo nyumba ikaporomoka.
In a statement, NCA Executive Director Engineer Maurice Akech said that the developer, identified as John Chore, had been issued the suspension notice in September 2024. Police now launching a manhunt for Mr. Chore.
Tangu jana tunaweza kutafuta mahali hapo yupo, lakini hatujafanikiwa. Ile tungetoa ilani kwamba aweze kujitokeleza.
3 others who are also rescued have since been discharged, while Nyakundi remains under care. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
Such harrowing tales. We're glad that Nyakundi is all right, and condolences to the family and friends of those who lost their loved ones in that incident. Now, the family of the late Agnes Wanjiru, who was allegedly killed by a British soldier in Nanyuki in 2012, says it will be forced to file a case in Britain to push for action if the case fails to progress locally in the next 2 months. Wanjiru's family, which met with UK's Defence Secretary John Healey, has expressed frustration over the slow progress by investigative agencies in the country and wants the UK government to help in getting justice for 13 years later. Getted Njoroge has the details.
In their long pursuit for justice for their late kin Agnes Wanjiru, the family, which has for years waited to table their case before the UK authorities, finally held a meeting with UK Defence Secretary John Healey. In a 2-hour meeting at the British High Commissioner residence, the family of the late Wanjiru expressed frustration over delay in getting justice.
It was relaunched in 2021. Since then, up to date, nothing has been... we have not seen any report from the investigation. Although the authorities, they say they're in advanced stages, which you don't know which these advanced stages, because this is a case of massive cover-up.
Joki says the long wait is taking a toll on the family, especially her daughter, who was only 5 months old when the mother was killed, and now she is 13 years old.
It has not been an easy journey, because sometimes she sees the story in the television and she really breaks down. It is always a hard time for us trying to comfort her. We need compensation for Agnes' daughter. She has been doing very bad mentally. She's really suffering.
The family, which has expressed hope of getting justice after meeting the UK Defence Secretary, has warned that failure by the two nations to take action within the next 2 months, they will be forced to file a case in the UK.
If we continue with the inaction that has been there in the next 2 months, we will be traveling to UK so that we can sue them then from their courts. Maybe they will be held accountable.
We would like the Honorable Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya to move the court and seek warrants of arrest, forward to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and extradition proceedings begin in UK for the suspects to be brought here. We believe they are known.
The Parliament of Kenya should not discuss another DCA, and the President the Cabinet of Kenya should not ratify another defense cooperation agreement until this issue of Agnes is completely sorted.
Healy, who committed to see a resolution of the unresolved case, said UK will support DCI in carrying out investigations and will also engage President William Ruto on the matter. Meanwhile, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Renson Ingoga, in a statement, says the DCI have submitted their file on the case and that he has constituted a team of senior prosecutors to conduct a comprehensive review of the file. The DPP has assured Wanjiru's family that the decision to charge will be made in accordance to the law. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
The former Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha now says that she was not aware of the former Deputy President's interference with the procurement process in the 3.7 billion shillings mosquito net scandal, which saw the Global Fund pull the plug on the process, citing corruption. Nakhumicha, who appeared before the National Assembly Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations for vetting today for the position of permanent mission of Kenya to the UN Habitat in Nairobi, said that millions of shillings were lost due to the massive irregularities in the procurement process.
I, Susan Nakhumicha Wafula.
In her first public appearance in Parliament since she was sent packing last year, the former CS for Health, Susan Nakhumicha, came face-to-face with the ghosts of her tenure in office, with the infamous 3.7 billion shilling mosquito nets procurement saga coming alive during her vetting. Nakhumicha, who was nominated by President William Ruto for the position of permanent representative, permanent mission of Kenya to the UN Habitat Nairobi, says she was not aware of Gachagwa's interference with the procurement of the nets. Nakhumicha explaining how the country, while it still got the mosquito nets, lost about 67 million shillings following the graft allegations.
Do you think, in your view, that the former Deputy President might have participated in influencing the process of tendering?
At the point while I was serving chair, and with the information that I was given, his involvement was not there. I got to learn of his involvement when the House was going through the impeachment process.
Her PS, then Peter Toom, who was transferred following the scandal, explaining some sinister moves just before the procurement.
What is the reason for the appointing officer to change your roles so frequently? Is it because you were not a good performer?
So, Piers, what you are telling this committee is that, and procedurally, the tendering was removed from your purview to another PS for purposes, particularly on this mosquito net or for the entire procurement that happened consequently?
No, it wasn't for any other procurement. It was the specific one for mosquito nets.
That points to the thin line between the two state departments, that there are some functions that would ordinarily overlap, since there is no clear beginning and end of a public health responsibility and a medical services responsibility.
During Gachagwa's impeachment process, former Kenya Medical Supplies Agency KEMSA Chief Executive Officer Andrew Mulwa told the Senate how the former DP made incessant calls and text messages on WhatsApp to him seeking to untwist the procurement process in favor of Shobika Impex Company, whose local agent was Crystal Limited Company, associated with one of Gachagwa's sons.
Gachagua, who denied involvement in the procurement process, said the process was above board and that the case was a mere political witch hunt. Others who were vetted include Dr. Caroline Wanjiru Karugo, nominee for Principal Secretary, State Department for East African Community Affairs, who promised to leverage on her skills in both the public and private sector to spur change.
So I do not feel like I'll be a fish out of water. I'll have at least a network. The AU campaign also exposed me to this region and the decision makers within the region.
And after the marathon vetting process here in Parliament, specific departmental committees will now be writing their reports and submit them to Parliament for approval, and the names of the nominees who have been successful will be transmitted to President William Ruto for appointment. Emmanuel Tor, Citizen TV, Parliament Buildings, Nairobi.
President Ruto's senior economic advisor, Moses Kuria, failed in his attempt to stop Equity Bank from auctioning its property in Kiambu over 54 million shillings debt. High Court Judge Alem Visram has declined to halt the auction, saying that the bank had followed the law in a bid to recover its money. Kuria, in seeking to stop the auction of the parcel of land, said that he was unable to service the loan taken in 2018 because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that he was also admitted to hospital for rehabilitation of his leg. The property set to be auctioned from Tuesday is a parcel of land and apartment blocks located in Ruaka and Juja, that's in Kiambu County. All right, on that note, we're taking a quick break on Monday Report. We're back with much more in just a short while, so don't go too far. Welcome back. So the Multimedia University student linked to the murder of his colleague Sylvia Kemunto will be detained for 21 days. The 19-year-old student named Eric Mutinda, who was arrested in Sultan Ahmud, will be held at Capitol Hill Police Station to allow police to complete investigations into the murder. The deceased and the suspect were first-year students at MMU, pursuing Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering and Bachelor of Mathematics for Computer Science, respectively, and had been in a relationship since September 2024. Now, police believe that Mutinda killed Kemunto after disagreement and dumped her body in a water tank.
Because the state has provided for areas to cover, and we shall be seeking that with time the family be allowed to file affidavits later.
In response to the application?
No, not for this. After the DPP decides. For now, we are urging the court to grant the 21 days.
In the course of his investigations, there is need to have the police given ample time to do the same. The respondent, having presented himself to the police, is well noted. However, the right to liberty is not absolute, and the same can be limited. At this juncture, it will not be proper to release the respondent on bond.
Now, the Ministry of Health has instituted an audit to verify all the pending NHIF claims in order to address the backlog of unpaid medical bills by the defunct fund. While launching the verification committee, Health Cabinet Secretary Adan Duale warned that the committee members will take personal responsibility for any claims that will be fraudulently paid. Mary Mwoki with the details.
After months of mounting pressure from healthcare providers and a growing healthcare crisis, the Ministry of Health has instituted audit of NHIF pending claims in order to make payment plans for all affected healthcare providers. The NHIF Pending Claims Verification Committee is tasked with reviewing billions in unpaid claims and making a report within 90 days.
As we embark on this assignment, Bonasias, we need to take note of the stock of debt before us. We are aware of the desire to scrutinize, examine every bill to ensure that we recommend what is quality and what is payable.
Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale emphasized that only genuine claims would be paid and the committee would bear accountability for the final report.
This committee has been established to provide an independent, thorough, and transparent review of the medical claims submitted to the defunct NHIF. All genuine claims of healthcare providers will be paid, and this committee will be held responsible for the payment made to services not provided.
The committee is also required to formulate a payment plan for the pending bills. The process is expected to resolve the ongoing crisis and restore public trust in the country's healthcare financing system. Mary Mwoki, Citizen TV.
Now, police are investigating the fatal shooting of a civilian allegedly by a Kenya Forest Service officer at Kiptunga Forest in Kuresoi South. 3 other individuals were injured during the clashes linked to an attempted grab of a 600-acre parcel of land whose ownership remains disputed.
A Form 3 student has been tragically shot dead with a bullet to the head in an incident that has left a village in mourning. Musa Cheptot was among those farming crops here. He never made it back home. His life was cut short by a bullet when Kenya Forest Service officers clashed with locals as they attempted to evict them from this disputed parcel of land.
Ilituma mtoto akuje kwa shamba. Mtoto kufika kwa shamba kumbe maskara amefamia shamba na akaua mtoto. Ni uchungu sana. Lakini mwenye alifanya hiyo kitendo wache Mungu ahusike.
Tulipokaiswa chini wakasema mtu mwenye ako na panga yote weka kando. Tulipoweka kando wakati tu wanaona sisi tumeweka kila kitu kando, tulikuwa kwa mashamba. So wakaanza kushikana na watu hivyo wakashika watoto wadogo ya shule ambapo wameenda na hiyo watoto ya shule na wamepiga hiyo watoto ya shule sana.
To the residents here, this land is more than just soil. It's their lifeline, their hope, and their heritage. But that hope now hangs in the balance. This because for over 3 decades, the 600-acre piece of land has been at the center of a bitter dispute. The government insists it is part of protected forest land, while local residents maintain they legally purchased it and even have ownership documents.
Wakakuja kazi yao ni kurusha marisasi. Kutufurusha kutoka wapi? Kwa shamba ambaye tulinunua kihalali na tuliwapa stakabadhi zote.
Leo ningependa kuomba IPOA waingilie kati. Yule polisi ama yule afisa ambaye alimpiga risasi yule mtoto achukuliwe hatua za kisheria.
Residents are calling for urgent investigations into the incident, but police maintain that the villagers were armed and violent. Lillian Muli, Citizen TV.
From that unfortunate story, let's talk about something uplifting here. So the Kenyan Grannies of Mutei FC have returned home after an unforgettable experience at the Grannies World Cup in South Africa. These incredible women not only reveled in their performances on the field, but also cherished the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to fly. With smiles on their faces, they've shared their joyous stories and are already setting their sights on bringing even more trophies home in 2026.
An ecstatic atmosphere fills the plain as Kenyan grannies celebrate their victory at the Grannies World Cup in South Africa. The women, who proudly flew the Kenyan flag high, are in high spirits, surrounded by surprised passengers capturing the moment with videos and photos. For many of the grannies, it wasn't just about competing on the field. It was their first ever flight, making this journey even more special.
Yani ndege ikienda juu, unasikia inasema inakuja chini. We, tulitafuta mahali pa kushika lakini hakuna kwa ndege. Mpaka tukajishikilia tu wenyewe. Lakini tulisema kwa nini inafanya hivyo? Tukaambiwa kumbe hata ndege akiwa juu ni kama gari yenye anapata pumps. Alikuwa nafanya hivi. Mpaka mimi nashika huyu Nakuja mpaka hapa napanda kitu kingine naanguka. Kitu naenda hivi.
And what a better way to complete a successful tour than to be recognized by the pilot.
I would like to take this moment to appreciate our Kenyan grannies.
To recognize their efforts and performance in the tournament, the team was awarded with a trophy. At their arrival gate to welcome the victorious grannies, who triumphed over their French counterparts, were traditional dancers and Ministry of Sports officials, celebrating the unforgettable win with vibrant displays of culture and pride.
Nabata Sawati, Soria Noba number 1. Bwamwaga hii. Mwaga tusaini mimi. Na ine. Watu wasumu na ngoja kuona mimi. Ukweli. Sile si naenda sisi alikuwa hakuna hii. Ndio tumepata. Sisi hakukuja bure. Tunaambia asante. Asante sana.
Tulipoanza 6 months ago, tumeweza kuleta ushindi hapa Kenya. Hatuko tunafikiria tunaweza pikana na France na tuwashinde. Lakini tunashukuru sana kwa support ambayo mlitupatia.
The grannies are now taking a well-deserved break, but soon they'll be back to practice, preparing for next year's competition. With their eyes set on even greater victories, they are determined to bring home more trophies and medals. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV.
Isn't that nice? That's one of our favorite stories here at Citizen TV. At Ndege kitoka inafanya nini? Many stories coming in. Right, so we wish the grannies all the best. We'll continue covering them and giving them all the best wishes all through this. So, the vetting process for candidates seeking the position of commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, that's IEBC, continued today with 6 candidates facing the election panel. The selection team sought answers on how the candidates would improve the electoral body and ensure a more efficient 2027 general election. However, the session was marked by notable absence of the vice chair of the vetting panel, Linda Kiome, who was scheduled to be vetted for the position of Deputy Governor of Meru County. She has, however, not been cleared by the IEBC, causing delays in her vetting process.
I don't see the need why we can print the ballot papers outside the country when we are printing our currency locally. Despite the mistrust that is there, we can print the presidential ballot papers outside, but the other ballot papers can be printed locally.
I will ensure that we even have a test run of a real election, because before you do an exam, you need to do a mock exam. Have we been able to test this technology in all extreme conditions? Are they waterproof? In a place where it's like a ritual, it's raining a lot. What if it rains on these machines? So we need to really test and have experts really testing it.
That's really the conversation we'll be having later on, the IEBC that we want. We'd like to hear from you. Trevor Mbidi at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. My guest will be here, except Nerima Wako, who's sent in her apologies. She won't make it tonight, but the 4 of them will be here with us, all right? Don't go too far. Time for some business news now. NCBA's bank is set to appeal a High Court ruling which nullified a 384.5 million shillings stamp duty exemption granted to the bank following the 2019 merger of NIC Bank and CBA Bank. In a statement seen by Citizen TV, the lender maintains that the exemption was procedurally secured in the interest of the public and in compliance with the law. Jimmy Mbogo now traces back the matter, which could affect how tax exemptions for mergers are scrutinized and its ramifications.
The merger between Commercial Bank of Africa CBA and NIC Bank, which paved the way for the formation of NCBA Bank in 2019, continues to draw attention, with the ruling by the High Court setting the stage for a fierce battle between the lender and serial litigator cum legislator Okia Omtata, who challenged the tax waiver extended to the bank during the merger. In his petition, the senator argued that the tax waiver was never gazetted, nor was it disclosed to the public, adding that, and I quote, there was no public interest to be served by exempting the merged NIC Group PLC and Commercial Bank of Africa, which were private profit-making entities, from paying the share of transfer tax dues. A prayer that was granted by Justice Chacha Mwita, who noted that the interest exhibited in the letter from the banks seeking exemption was more private than in public interest.
Second, there having not been public interest, the decision to exempt the third and fourth respondents from paying stamp duty on the registrable instruments on the merger between the Commercial Bank of Africa Limited and the NIC Group PLC violated Article 2(1) of the Constitution.
Came our 78th branch.
However, NCBA Bank says they will appeal the decision. The lender holds that the waiver was procedurally secured and that the exemption was in the interest of the public. The bank reiterates its intention to exhaust all available legal options to uphold this position, adding that, and I quote, NCBA Group PLC's exemption application to the Cabinet Secretary in charge of the National Treasury, supported by the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Lands and Physical Planning in 2019, was made in good faith and in strict compliance with the provision of the laws of Kenya. This statement, however, presents a shift from the lender's earlier position.
But what I'll assure the public, and assure every Kenyan, is that should the court find that NCBA was not entitled to that waiver, now very clear, the day the court makes that determination that we were not entitled to that waiver, the following day we'll send a check of 350 million shillings. The following day, that I can promise.
Should the appeal fail, the lender may be required to pay the 384.5 million shillings in stamp duty, as well as potential penalties and interest. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Africa's digital development agenda today took center stage at the opening of the Regional Development Forum for Africa here in Nairobi, hosted by the Communications Authority of Kenya. The meeting comes amid concerns over slow internet adoption, high connectivity costs, and growing digital inequality across the continent. Wamboi Wangoi has the details.
Africa's top policymakers, regulators and tech players are meeting in Nairobi for the Regional Development Forum for Africa. The forum, led by the International Telecommunication Union, is assessing the continent's digital progress ahead of the 2025 World Telecommunication Development Conference.
This forum really is very, very important for us as Africa. Because if you go to Nigeria, a very fast-moving society, they have their successes. When you come to Nairobi, we say we are the Silicon Savannah of Africa. If we cross-change in between ourselves, we should be able to get to the top and then tell our development partners, this is what we think you can do with us, as opposed to them telling us, this is where we think we can help you do the following. So we will be getting funded in our terms.
The International Telecommunications Union revealing that only 38% of Africa's population was online in 2024. This is the lowest rate among all regions globally. While mobile phones remain the main gateway to internet access, mobile ownership in the continent still trails the global average, standing at 66%. Only 31% of women are connected compared to 43% of men.
And when digital access remains unreliable and unavailable for nearly 60% of our people, to nearly 60% of our people, economic participation, social inclusion, public service delivery are all undermined. And these are development barriers that require coordinated and actionable responses. I wish
ministers have spoken and on how we can address the challenges the African continent is facing. Mainly is how to accelerate the building of our infrastructure, ICT connectivity. For the continent, we're looking from submarine cable connectivity in each of the specific countries, and also regional interconnection so that Africa can be connected.
Delegates are also reviewing progress on the Kigali Action Plan adopted in 2022, which committed to expanding broadband, supporting innovation and making online spaces safer.
Thank you so much.
Wamboi Wangoi, Citizen TV.
Next photo, and I'll just ask you to...
Kenyans are borrowing an average of 500 million shillings every day, amounting to a staggering 15 billion shillings each month. This is according to a new report by the Digital Financial Services Association of Kenya. Dennis Otieno has the details of this and other key findings in the report.
In a country where mobile money has become a way of life, the latest figures capture the pulse of Kenya's fast-evolving financial landscape. According to the Digital Financial Services Association of Kenya, Kenyans are borrowing an average of 500 million shillings daily, a sum that now amounts to 15 billion shillings every month. The findings show more than 8 million Kenyans, or about 16% of the population, are now actively accessing loans through digital platforms each month. Beyond access, the report shows the tangible impact of these loans. From fueling the Boda Boda revolution, which now boasts over 2 million riders, to financing over 100,000 smartphones each month. To safeguard consumers and streamline operations, the association has welcomed the recent Business Laws Amendment Act of 2024, which officially placed digital credit providers under the regulatory oversight of the Central Bank of Kenya.
So now we pay the same tax SACCOs, banks and microfinance banks pay, which essentially means that we now have some predictability, and so what we expect is improved investment.
The lobby says the move strengthens consumer protection, reduces rogue lending practices, and formalizes the industry's place in Kenya's financial sector.
We were talking about the consumer protection improvements we have made, where we had almost 4,000 calls of complaints in 2019, and now they've been reduced to a few dozen a month.
Looking ahead, the association is now advocating for tax reforms, specifically calling for the introduction of bad debt allowances, a move they say is critical to long-term sustainability and fairness in the sector. Dennis Otieno, Citizen TV.
Now, one of the ways Kenya is becoming food secure is through value addition, which helps to reduce post-harvest losses and create employment opportunities. Entrepreneurs are now venturing into agribusiness to provide such solutions, one of them being Patrick Maina, who founded Pana Food Technologies, which is now making pumpkin juice. Edward Chwea tells us how Pana Food Technologies is making over 5 different products from pumpkins.
When Made in Kenya visited Patrick Maina at a station in Sagana, Kirinyaga County in 2021, he was only drying different farm produce, grinding and mixing them to make different flour products. Fast forward to 2025, Maina has since expanded his portfolio to add value to more farm produce. Maina is now making juice from the pumpkin fruit, which traditionally has been cooked and consumed as food.
We are having a lot of problems now because of climate change. And somehow, we have forgotten that these are the very food which we used to eat, or even our forefathers. A pumpkin by itself, you see, is a fruit and it's also a vegetable. It's kind of a fruit or a vegetable which has been abandoned. What I really did is to research on it, see what the best way can I do to add value on this pumpkin fruit.
And from this research, Maina realized that the pumpkin can be processed into a variety of products, both food and non-food.
Pumpkin juice. I think this is one of the best products which I have innovated. There is also pumpkin flour, which is made from dried, sliced pumpkin. We have pumpkin seeds, we have pumpkin seed oil, we have pumpkin puree, drying pumpkin leaves for mukimo, animal feed, especially the pigs.
Maina obtains the pumpkins from local farmers across the country, and at his factory in Ruiru, he has a group of trained staff who help with the production of the pumpkin juice.
The fruit comes from the shamba. You have now to clean it. That is the process of peeling the outer skin, slice it into pieces, remove the inner part. You start what we say boiling. Then you have to paro. You have now to do the final pasteurization again. Then from there, you pack into plastic bottles and then label.
Maina's pumpkin juice has been tested and approved by the Kenya Bureau of Standards and is now selling at his shop and offices within Kiambu and Nairobi counties.
This is something I would like to appeal and to request those who are doing value addition. It's prudent. Just get along with the authority. I have a shop where we are selling. The target group is, I think, is all of us, from children up to the elderly.
While Maina says the reception has been positive for his new product, his challenge is the limited production capacity, something he looks forward to overcoming in the near future and being able to stock the product in major outlets in the country.
The reception of the juices is just too much because I've seen it, I've done it. So with the capacity, I would say, oh, there is a problem. We have a problem of drying. We don't have yet a technology which can enhance more of, for example, arrowroot powder to be produced. Why? The only method which is known is solar dryer. Can we really try to think backwards for those agricultural products which we left behind?
Pumpkin is one of the traditional fruits among Kenyan communities, mostly cooked and consumed as food. But Pana Food Technologies is now adding value to this fruit to make different products like this juice here. The idea is to add to the country's food basket and at the same time create employment opportunities for the Kenyan youth. Edward Chwea, Made in Kenya, Citizen TV.
All right, on that note, let's take another quick break. When you come back, it's time now for some sporting action, so don't go too far.